Morning dear students, welcome back once again for yet another session of grammar. Today's class once again is for 3 classes put together, that is classes 8, 9 and 10, because the topic that we were discussing is getting continued. And if you remember right, day before yesterday in the last class we discussed non-finite verbs. So, today we will have a focus or we will pay our attention to participles and gerunds. You see, when we discuss participles and gerunds, one of the confusing questions brought about or raised by students is that how do I distinguish between a participle and a gerund? How do I know that a particular word is a participle and another one is a gerund? How do I differentiate? Well, this is a reasonable question, but the answer is very simple. If you know the place where a participle occurs and a gerund occurs, the place I mean, if you are able to find out the place, locate the place, then the answer is already there. Now look at this sentence. I am dancing. The last word is dancing. It is an ing form of a verb. It is the participle or the present participle. I am dancing. Now, is this a gerund or a participle? That is the question. How do I find out? This ing form, is it a gerund or a participle? Now, look at the word which comes before that. Am. Well, am is a finite verb. Is, am, are, was, were. All these words are finite verbs and therefore a finite verb goes before the participle. A finite verb precedes the participle. So this is obviously a participle. So how do I find a participle? How do I locate the place? I locate the place by seeing the verb. Where is the verb? That is the first thing I have to see. Now here, I is the subject, am is a finite verb, and the ing form, that is the present participle of dance, follows the finite verb. So here, it is not a gerund, but a participle. Now look at the sentence, the next one. The next one is dancing is my hobby. Dancing. But look at the place of the participle. Look at the place of the participle. It comes in the beginning of a sentence and a helping verb comes after that. Here the helping verb comes before the participle, but here the helping verb comes after the participle. Now you see, dancing is my hobby. If you ask the question, what is my hobby? Then the answer is, dancing is my hobby. So it answers the question what? And again, the participle occurs in the beginning of the sentence and it does 2 words, 2 functions. Not words, it does 2 functions. It functions as a verb as well as a noun. So, 2 jobs are done by 1 word. That is the job of a verb as well as that of a noun. And it becomes a subject of a sentence. So when you see a participle acting as a subject, that is, it appears in the beginning of a sentence, you can definitely say that it is a gerund. If you may ask me to give some other examples, writing is my hobby. So what is the first word of the sentence? Writing. Ing form comes at the beginning and it acts as a subject. It does the work of a noun as well as that of a verb. So, writing is my hobby. Gardening is my passion. So, writing is my hobby. Gardening is my passion. Dancing is my hobby. When you look at all these sentences, when you analyze them, you find the present participle acting as a subject. And it does 2 jobs. The job of a verb as well as that of a noun. So, they are gerunds. So, when the ing form of the participle occurs as a subject of a sentence, you can be definitely sure that it gerund. A participle working as a gerund. Now look here, sometimes the participle can come after a verb such as like. I love dancing, I like dancing. So this is the object of the verb. It acts as an object of the verb. So I like dancing. It does the work of an object. Like is a verb, dancing does the work of an object. It is a gerund. I like gardening. Gardening is again a gerund. I like cycling. Cycling here again is a gerund because they all come after a verb. They become objects of the verb. They act as objects of the verb. So you can say that these participles do the work of a gerund. The garden needs watering. What does the garden need? The garden needs watering. Now again, needs is a verb and watering acts as the object of the verb. Needs is a transitive verb. What do you mean by transitive verb? A verb that takes an object is a transitive verb. So you see here, the garden needs watering. And it answers the question what? So, watering is a gerund. Most of the gerunds will answer the question what? For example, I love cycling. What do I love? Cycling, obviously. So the question what answers, the word cycling answers the question what? I love writing short stories. What do I love? I love writing short stories. So writing short stories, writing is again a gerund. So whenever you can see that a word, a participle answering the question what, it generally happens to be a gerund. So I think we must have got some idea about locating or identifying a gerund and a participle. Generally, a participle comes after a helping verb and a gerund acts as a verbal noun and it becomes or acts as a subject of a sentence. And sometimes the gerund comes after verbs like and need. Right. Now, when we talk about the participles, we talk about the present participle, which is V4, the past participle, which is V3, and the perfect participle, which is having. Now, most of us might be familiar with the present participle and the past participle, but we do not often hear of this perfect participle. Look at the sentences. He was calling out the names. He was calling out the names. Before, helping verb was, and then comes the ing form, that is a present participle, that is calling. So here it is a present participle. Be sure of that. It follows, it comes after a helping verb. Awakened by the noise, the girl opened the door. Awakened, V3. Awake, awoke, awakened. Awakened by the noise, V3 past participle. Awakened by the noise, the girl opened the door. Here again it is a past participle, V3. When questioned by the principal, he had no answers, which means when he was questioned. Questioned, past participle. So here it is a participle. Okay, now comes a very important participle, that is having. You see, this one, having, perfect participle. We call having as a perfect participle. But how do you use it? Having finished the work, he slept. Present participle. So what do you mean? He first finished the work. Two actions are happening here. He finished his work first and then he slept. This is the second action. So when you describe two actions, one which happened first and then which happened next. So when two actions are described, we use the present participle for the first action. Having finished the work. That means as soon as he finished the work, it means just that. Having means as soon as he finished the work, he slept. So this again is a perfect participle. It is known as a perfect participle. And having taken aim, another example, having taken aim, the hunter shot the tiger. Two actions. Having taken aim, that is the first action. The hunter shot the tiger, that is the second action. So first he aims, then he shoots. So having taken aim, perfect participle. So present participle, past participle and perfect participle, they come under the non-finites. The use of participles is very important. I will be giving you some exercises you can do there once the class is over. Now look at this. I am eating sweets. I am eating. Here it is a participle. I am fond of eating sweets. Here it is a gerund. How do I say that this is a gerund? Because it comes after a preposition. I am fond of eating sweets. Of is a preposition. So obviously this becomes the object of the preposition. Eating becomes the object of the preposition. So it is a gerund. Always remember, when ing form comes after a preposition, it takes the form of a gerund. I am tired of walking. Of walking. Of is a preposition, walking is a present participle, but since it comes after a preposition, the present participle becomes a gerund. This is a point to be noted. So, when a preposition comes followed by a present participle, that present participle becomes a gerund. Must always remember this. I am fond of eating sweets. If I say I am fond of eating sweets, what is of? Of is a preposition. What comes after of? Eating. So, preposition followed by ing is a gerund. I am fond of cycling. Of cycling. I am tired of listening to the English teacher. Tired of listening. Of is a preposition. Then comes the present participle. So, obviously it is a gerund. When ing form, a present participle comes after a preposition, it is not a participle, it is a gerund, and that is a point that you need to keep in mind all the time. Right. Now I am going to talk about one important point. You need to pay attention to this. Look at this, the swinging door. Swinging, moving. What is a swinging? Door is a noun, everybody knows. What is swinging? The action. So this word swinging qualifies the door. Remember, this word swinging qualifies the door, which is a noun, and any qualifying word. Any word that qualifies a noun is an adjective. So swinging is a participle, at the same time it does the work of an adjective. So it is known as a verbal adjective. What is a verbal adjective? A participle which does the work of an adjective and a verb. It performs two functions. One is it is acting like an adjective. Another one is it is a verb by itself. Swing, swang, swung, swinging. Participle. At the same time doing the work of an adjective. Verb plus adjective. There are two functions here. So it is known as a verbal adjective. The next one, running water. Water which flows. Running is a participle, but it qualifies the noun water. It is also a verbal adjective. Sleeping Beauty. Beauty is a girl, a beautiful girl. So sleeping. Beauty is a noun. Sleeping qualifies the noun beauty. Sleeping is a verb. Sleeping is also a participle. And it does the work of an adjective. So verbal adjective. Weeping wall. If you go to Israel, you will find the Jews dashing themselves against the Wailing Wall. There is a wall. Okay. So they dash themselves against that wall and pray. So that wall came to be known as weeping wall. Wall is a noun. Weeping is a participle. Weeping qualifies the noun word. Weeping is a verb again. Verbal adjective. Participles can become verbal adjectives when they perform the qualifying job of a noun. This has to be kept in mind. So these are also non-finites. Participles, obviously they are non-finites. Verbal adjectives, when they function as verbal adjectives, again they are said to be the part of non-finites. Right. Now look at this. Sometimes participles are used to join sentences. Two separate sentences. You join both of them. I saw a dog. It was running. So what was the dog doing? The dog was running. I saw a dog. These two words are off and this comes down. So now both the sentences become one. So I saw a dog running. I saw a dog barking. I saw a girl crying. You will come across such sentences very often. So what has happened actually here is two sentences have become one, and what does the job of joining the two sentences? It is the participle which does the job of putting the two sentences together. So the participle is used to join sentences. Participles function as adjectives, verbal adjectives. Participles are used to join sentences. Two important things that you need to keep in mind. Right. Now coming to the last part of the class, let us kind of discuss some gerunds and participles. Look at these sentences. I don't like sleeping on the floor. I don't like is a verb. And here it becomes an object. Sleeping becomes the object of the verb. Obviously, what is it? Is it a participle or a gerund? It is definitely a gerund. Because it becomes the object of the verb like. I like eating sweets. What is eating? Gerund. I like reading novels. What is reading? Gerund. Because it becomes the object of the verb like. I want to start my own business. Now here, this is not a participle. This is not a gerund either. Then what is it? It is an infinitive. 2 plus V1. So participles, infinitives and gerunds are non-finite verbs. That is what we have been discussing so far. So here it is an infinitive. Again it is a non-finite verb. Reading is my passion. Look at this. The beginning of the sentence begins with a participle, but it acts as a subject, a verb and a noun. It's a verbal noun. Reading, gerund. I am fond of reading books. I am fond of reading. So of is a preposition and the preposition takes a participle, gerund. The gathering clouds were dark. Clouds, noun. Clouds, noun. And what comes before the noun? Gathering. That is a participle again. Gathering clouds. Here, gathering is a verbal adjective. Definitely, this is a participle. It is not a gerund, but the participle does the work of an adjective. Now look at one more sentence. I'll give you one more sentence. Why waste time in talking? Why waste time in talking? If you look at the sentence very carefully, you will see in, which is a preposition. And after the preposition comes the present participle. Here it is not a participle. It is the object of the preposition in. So obviously it is a gerund. The word comes after a preposition. Obviously a gerund. So I think with this we will wind up today's session, and I believe that you must have had some idea about the non-finites, especially of participles and gerunds. Of course, that was today's class. There are so many exercises to be done. You cannot understand a participle and a gerund overnight. Remember, it's not a one night's job. You have to go through exercises, sentences, assignments. And the more you work out exercises, the better the understanding and better the clarity. So I will be giving you some work. Please sit at home and go through those sentences and tick them and find out whether they are participles or gerunds or imperatives. So with this we wind. Till we meet again, goodbye and safe stay.